Hey there, welcome. This is a video about kind of the placebo effect and I guess modernity in general. I watched a video recently today by Nutrition Facts, and it was showing multiple placebo-controlled studies on people that took like cold water plunges after exercising. There's a lot of belief that it's anti-inflammatory, it helps with muscle recovery and heart rates and all sorts of things. Michael Greger showed many studies that basically, for now, showed the evidence that it's not any better than a placebo pill or just a regular warm water dip that has like a special serum put into it, or any other controlled setting. And so this had me remembering when I was in university studying neuroscience, I was really interested in the placebo effect. I recently heard about the book Biology of Belief, and this type of thing of how we create our reality and how our body almost follows the mind in certain ways, not maybe universally, but in certain ways, and how we can start to create a better reality just by believing it. There was studies on like people, I think it was like hotel cleaners, and they were maybe not in the best health. And so they had two groups. One was just a control group doing the house cleaning every day, and the other was the control group that did the house cleaning. But the scientists educated on how much they're actually physically active, how much they're exercising and the weight they're lifting and how good this is for their health. They kept doing the same housekeeping job, but the ones that just knew that it was exercise had profoundly better outcomes in their blood pressure and heart rate and weight and stuff. And this was amazing to me. Like this was, we can just start creating a better life. And I've definitely had bursts of my life where I remembered this and I put this into account, but it's been a while and I kind of forgot. And I, for one, basically I want us as a spiritual community to recognize the role of placebo effect without reducing that or stigmatizing it. Placeboing the placebo effect, if you will. Making it so that when we use the placebo effect, when we allow our own consciousness, our own present awareness to believe in positive realities, to accept and embrace that and then understand that just that alone can help. I think that's even more powerful and potent than always needing some authority figure to tell you something is good, some external stimuli as like a pill or a coping mechanism or just a pattern that you do, a routine, a habit. If we can just do that with our consciousness, we're gonna have a healthier, longer lasting, nicer life, happier, so on and so forth. And I kind of think at the end of the day, the essence of this is what a lot of the yogis are doing. I think a lot of the monks and the yogis in the world are taking control of their mind, their consciousness, and changing how they view the world actively and making how they view the world better. And thus, when successful, their own everything follows, not just their mind and their emotions, but their body as well. And I think this is where we actually get into when maybe a yogi's unhealthy. And I think it's when we have so many negative beliefs, the rigidity, the prohibitions on certain actions and patterns, the oppression and repressing of urges and impulses. And I think this is not healthy for us either. And we end up maybe creating negative realities just because we are attracted to somebody, or we like sugar. And so we create these negative realities. And so I think actually it's like the successful yogis are the ones kind of mastering that controlled consciousness or the placebo effect. And the unsuccessful ones are maybe creating too many negatives about reality, too many what are called actually nocebo effects. And the part of modernity I want to talk about is I think that there's actually been pockets of like Renaissance consciousness popping through in our modern day. Some examples I think are modern psychotherapies. There's a lot of them that are learning from mindfulness and Buddhist meditation, but in general, they're really kind of cutting to the core of what's making a lot of people upset or not happy. And it actually kind of relates to what the placebo effect is getting at. I'm not going to actually call it the placebo effect at the end of the day. I think it's just positive, conscious believing that we're looking at. And the more we do this, the better things are for ourselves. And this is the case in a lot of rationality therapies, cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy. And these patterns actually echo in a lot of the different patterns, in ACT and, mindfulness-based therapies. They are similar understandings are there, slightly different approaches. Some are a bit more gentle, and some are a bit more focused on trauma, some are a bit more focused on like specific issues. But there is this core of understanding the role of belief, or the role of the mind, the role of how we view ourselves and the world. And we see time and time again that when it's negative, when it's very harsh, when there's a lot of weighted labeling that is with kind of like a lack of value, like unvaluable valuations, basically negativity, judgment, associated with fear and hate and jealousy and worry and so on, we see a tendency to react with negative emotions, which also in turn react with almost like negative physiological stimuli too. It's all kind of like connected in a big crucible pot, a stew of consciousness. And we are discovering this secularly. We don't need, the positive affirmation of a deity necessarily to really hone in on some of these negative patterns that cause us suffering, which are basically nocebo effects. We believe something negative about reality, whether it's our own body, our own sense of self, an event, like a thing that happened, or another person or a group of people, thinking something negative, like giving it an evaluation that is just inherently negative to our perception, and then reacting with suffering in some form, like fear and anxiety and hate and depression and sadness and jealousy and so on, and anger. And then when we don't do that, we don't usually feel those. Sometimes there's like traumatic evaluations, like almost like physiological evaluations. They're so embedded that they're many degrees removed from our present awareness, and we have to go in with some kind of mindfulness, some type of meditation or guidance or therapy to kind of see that, we were associating these things with all this negativity. We just didn't know. And at the end of the day, it's like the main process is facing that and readjusting how we view it and changing it to be neutral to positive. We are discovering the power of the mind, just as the Buddhists and the yogis did hundreds of years ago. We're just doing it in this setting with this, population, this type of comfort level, technology, ability to communicate in different ways. And I find a lot of society is breaking down some of these negative walls. The LGBTQ movement and the BIPOC movements of the world, feminism, while, there might be imperfect actors sometimes on exaggerated on the media, overall it's about breaking some of these negative barriers that have been in the minds of humans for many, many, many decades. And this is important, breaking down the walls of male and female, breaking down dichotomies between any two groups of people, breaking down what reality can be. This is the case too with people creating art and creating new forms of art and experimenting with different sensations, having full-on virtual reality, AI aided experiences at this point. It's kind of insane when you think about it in comparison to some 2D like tapestry art from ancient medieval times. And I think within the changing of the world, the technological advances, it's a mixture of looking at it positively and making the most of it positively so that we adapt and survive it and are happy and healthy during it, and keeping ethical grounds and trying to make things not harm other beings. Basically, the unified placebo effect, making it so all beings united, as many as possible, are able and capable and aware of activating the placebo effect, activating the positive consciousness, which almost relates to faith. The person has faith that the pill does a blah blah, and then the pill does blah blah, even though it's just cornstarch or a sugar pill. This is kind of fun. Like, this is just a sign of the potentiality of our own consciousness. And so the more we can spread this awareness and make a positive world, the better it's going to be, regardless of any doctrine, any past, any class, any status, any race, any orientation, any religion, any spiritual lineage. It's really comes down to what the placebo effect is getting at. I think it's much more than the placebo effect, but it just pinpoints something so vast, so untapped, that it shows how separate we think we are when we realize we are our own creators of health and performance, that we don't keep up that pattern. We actually, people that get revealed that they were given a placebo oftentimes reduce their performance back to the previous levels, or their health drops again. That's hilarious to me. It's actually better that we can change it without anything, but we have this perception of separation between ourselves and the outside world to such an extent that when we realize that it's our own self creating most of the good things, we like dial back to a worse state. And I think it's a mix of duality and laziness. I think we just all want something to take care of ourselves. We just don't want to do it ourselves. We don't want it to be our own effort. And yet we value effort so much. We are in such a contradictory state. We will value the strong go-getters that put in tons of effort, almost to the point that it's unhealthy, and they do that all so that they can have retirement where things are done for them. It's just it's a very interesting dynamic, this sense of individuality and sense of infinite potential of the individual, and yet all these requirements of limitation and desires for limitation. But if we hone in on that capacity of the placebo effect, we are going to have a much better and healthier life. And I think that's where a lot of growth is going to come, is people are going to realize this in some way, whether we use the word placebo or not. And that's when you even see growth in people in psychotherapy and so on, is when they start believing positive things, expanding things, not negative, limiting things. So just a spiel. It was just on my mind. Thank you for listening. Om Sai Ram.